Welcome to PSL Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another Monday minisode.
That's right. Our Monday minisodes are where we get an opportunity to talk about a specific topic in reselling in a shorter amount of time. But if you like our content, you like hearing about reselling, maybe you want just to hear about reselling, some familiar stuff for an hour or so. Every Wednesday, we have a longer form podcast that you can find anywhere you get your podcast needs met or on YouTube. So hit that like, hit the subscribe button, make sure you're following and get those notifications so that when we drop that content, you can find it. And today we're going to be talking about one of the things that might be easily overlooked as a reseller, and that is the importance of getting to know your shipping people. It's like a shipping hack. It's like a life hack as a reseller. And it's one of the things that people often overlook. And so we're going to be talking about why it's crucial for you as a reseller to have those good connections with your shippers.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this one because I don't think a lot of people talk about this. People always are all flexing on social media. Oh, I bought my postman a $50 gift card, right? I brought cupcakes to the UPS driver. But I want to take it a step further. I mean, that's all, those are all great things to do. And I was thinking about this the other day because I got to tell you, I have a great relationship with the people at the UPS store, the FedEx store, my post office. The other day, I was at the post office and we've had some trouble at the post office out here. You know, the little metal thing that you put packages in and you close? Mm-hmm. Like 2 of the ones in town have been destroyed. Like they never work. And so, you know, if it's a Saturday, I can't ship things out unless somebody's willing to open I knock on the door and somebody comes out, and they will come out for me. And they're really good to me all the time. You know, I'll come in after closing and they'll see me through like one of the blinds and they're like, come on, we'll hook you up. And, you know, I'll go to the UPS store and they're always good to me. And so, you know, I don't want this to come off as manipulative because it's not about like, hey, being good to people so you can get something out of them. But it's just good practice overall with anybody. And so the first thing is, you know, realize that the people that you're seeing, you're going to see these people on a daily basis, right? These are, you know, if you're a full-time reseller, like you're going to see these people every day pretty much except for Sundays. And so I encourage you to say hi, ask them how they're doing, because they're human too, right? They want the interaction. You know, our post office here, one of them like always gets shady people coming through. It's not as bad as it used to be, but the post office does have your reputation. And so, you know, they do get a lot of flack. And so they like it when somebody who's positive, who cares about what they're doing, goes in there and strikes up conversation. Now, obviously, if they're busy, don't be that weird guy that doesn't get the hint of like, hey, maybe it's not the best time to talk. But understand, these people are working hard. And if they're seeing you every day and you're always like, you know, minding your own business, you refuse to talk to them and you just drop off your packages. Like, I don't think that's the way to go because, you know, people like to have connections. People like to have connections at work. And if they see that you're a reliable person, if they see that, you know, you're running a business, you know, I get people all the time back in the day that would ask me like, man, you're here every day. Like, what do you do? And some people will be like, oh, I'm not going to share, but it doesn't hurt to say, yeah, I sell on eBay. I get these packages out on time. Cause you know, even if they hear like, I'll give you a good example. I had, one post office worker, like it was Saturday. It was, you know, drop off was 4:00 and I got there at 4 something and it was already late. So I waited in my car and I waited for them to come out. I know it sounds a little soccerish, but they came out around 4:08 and I'm like, hey, can I drop these off? And they're like, Orlando, what is the deal? Like, you're always, no matter what, you need to drop these off. And I explained to them about the eBay algorithm and how, you know, it may not be true, but you know, if you ship out things on Saturday, I feel like I get more sales. And they're like, okay, good. So we'll make sure to, you know, like if you don't see us out here or if you make it like a minute or two late, just let us know, right? We'll open the door. You can come around the back. You can talk to us. And so it makes, you know, this is kind of leaning to the second part we're going to talk about. It makes your business easier by getting to know people. Do you agree? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, having that human connection is really big. I mean, obviously, some of us do the post office thing, and probably there more than anywhere, it's a good idea to be that friendly face, to be that person that is saying hi, be that person that is pleasant to have come into their line. Like they should see you and not be like, oh my goodness, right? And recognizing, yeah, they're humans. And even when you get bad service, I think this is one thing that a lot of people struggle with, is when you do get some bad service, is to remember that, like, hey, they could be having a really bad day. Things they probably dealt with a ton of people who've been rude to them, and that who knows what's going on. So just being kind, being that nice person, and not getting upset and holding it personally, because they might be rude to you one time you come in, but then the next time they're totally friendly, and maybe they even remember they were rude to you. But even if they don't, if you are rude back to them, they will for sure remember you. And that's what they're going to remember you as, is the rude person. So sometimes you got to swallow your pride and just be nice to them. And then recognizing, like you said, that it could definitely help with, shipments on stuff, make your life easier. So we had a like a post box, like not a postal annex type thing. I don't know what they're called in other places, but it's not exactly a UPS store, but they run, they'll receive mail for you. They'll send mail out for you. UPS, FedEx, post office come to them. And because we were so known there, because we'd come often, we could totally skip the lines. They were totally fine with us skipping the lines to either give or receive packages from. They would see us in the back of the line. They'd call us up. They'd hand us a package because they knew who we were. They knew they had our packages. And sometimes other customers would get upset, but it was fine, because it's like, the people who work here, they're making my life easier because I know them. I've been here. I'm a loyal customer. I've been good to them. They've been good to me. So yeah, it definitely makes your job easier when you have those connections set up.
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, I deal with, like, Q4. I had a lot of situations where I would go in and UPS was just swamped, like lines out the door, and I want to make sure my items get scanned. Now, the fact that I already had a relationship with everybody there, they knew who I was, there was some trust built. I could just go, hey, is it okay if I just drop off all these packages in the corner and I just come back a few hours later to get the scan receipt? And they're like, yeah, no problem, Orlando, that's fine. I can't tell you how many times that's happened, because you never know. You just never know. Now, sometimes they can connect you with, I find this with supplies or with knowledge that you may not have. It's kind of leaning into two of our things that we're going to talk about. But for example, these stores, right? A lot of them are just franchise, right? They're not, UPS is franchise. So I have one owner I know, they own 2 stores. I know somebody else that owns a store, and I'll never forget, those bubble pillows, right, that you can inflate. They actually had one of those machines, and I had said, that's cool that you guys have one of those. How'd you guys go about purchasing that? They're like, oh, we know this guy that, buys these used from other individuals. They refurbish it, they make it new, and you can get a good deal. And I was like, wow. I've also had situations at USPS. If you guys don't know, you can get that free priority tape. Usually you have to call the number. I don't have the number for this podcast, but it's pretty easy to Google. But I go in there pretty frequently, and I can go in there and say, hey, do you guys have any USPS priority tape? And they'll give me the free tape. So they have a vast knowledge. You have to understand too, that these individuals, that especially at UPS and FedEx, they actually get paid to package items. And so I've had times where I've gone and I kind of was like, hey, I'm shipping out this item. I've never packed it before. What are your thoughts? And they actually had expertise on it, because they've had to ship out multiple of those items. They're like, hey, Orlando, you want to make sure on this item that you watch the corners, make sure you float it here, make sure you put cardboard on this side of the thing. And I end up gaining a lot of knowledge. And I can tell you story after story. I had one time where I brought in an item, and they're like, hey, Orlando, you're very close to freight. I know you want to ship this out today, but you're probably going to be better off going home, seeing if you can like cut a couple inches off the box, so you don't run into danger, because it might cost you $1,000. And had I never had a relationship with them, is it possible that employee might have said something to me? It's possible. But if they're only working for minimum wage or a little bit higher, chances that they're going to take the time to help me out, probably not much, unless you have some kind of relationship with them. And so, I don't know, Mike, you think there's those situations that you never know, and you're obviously going to say you're better off getting to know the people than acting like they don't exist.
Yeah. What do you clarify what you mean there?
No, what I mean is, it's, have you had situations where like you just never like like had you no relationship with them, you would have been in a bind or it would have been tough. Like maybe you didn't have a package that would have been shipped off. Maybe items would have like what was that example that where you got these packages that you shouldn't have received? Right.
And yeah, we brought those back to them. We got envelopes full of money and we took it back into them. Yeah, no, for sure. We've had that. I've had them things not show up that we were waiting for or things that needed to go out. And when things don't show up, they're like on it. They'll do whatever they can. They go above and beyond. We've had times where like we've missed the deadline of like their FedEx person and they're like, hold on, he just left like 5 minutes ago. Let us call him real quick. Tell him we have a few more things for him to pick up. Like who does that? Right. Like they're putting themselves out on the line to get somebody to come out of his way another 5-10 minutes. But because I had those connections, it definitely helped out and they were willing to do things like that. So yeah, I would say having those connections are great. It's really, really, really helpful. And like you said at the beginning, it doesn't hurt, if it's your mailman, like it could just be the person who comes to your house every day. It doesn't hurt if it's the same person, you know them, get them a thank you Christmas card, but make them some, homemade cookies when you're baking your cookies around Christmas time or whatever the situation is. Those things don't hurt. Those things should be done not because you're just trying to get something in return, but because you're trying to be kind and thankful. But then those types of relationships help out. And I don't know, I heard something. I'm not super into like all of the like woo-woo stuff, but it was like, there's givers and then there's takers and then there's like people who are kind of like in the middle, but like a lot of people will just take and some people will give. And it's like when a giver is by a taker, the taker loves it because they just take. When two takers are together, it's obviously an issue. But when you get two people who are both givers, and they're both like just trying to give into each other, not because they're trying to get anything back, they're not trying to take out of the relationship. It actually, both parties win way more than if one of them was a taker, right? So like just realizing that, like just by pouring into other people, not because you're expecting to get something out of every relationship, but by doing that, there's a good chance that you're going to end up with many opportunities that pop up, specifically with things like shipping, having a mailman willing to wait for you, having a mail person willing to come back if you need something to go out, to give you that feedback on how to ship something, to say, hey, this might be over in inches. All of those things come from a good relationship versus having a bad relationship, for sure.
Agreed. So, hey, make those connections. Be friendly to your shipping people. They're good people just like you. And so make sure to take that time. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling.
Peace.